Alright, so I don't know what's going on with my video. It keeps kicking me off. I'm gonna give it a couple seconds. I'm just gonna sit here because I don't want to keep going over things if the video is not going to work today. So I'm just gonna give it a second and wait for more people to like jump on here. I don't know what's up with my connection. I have full service right now, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. So I want to make sure it's going to stay up for me. If it does it again, I'm probably going to move everything back into my dining room, and maybe it's something to do with me sitting on my sun porch out here. So it's going to let it go here for a minute. I think we're good. It looks pretty good here. All right, got one. All right, guys. I think I'm good. Can everybody hear me and everything right now? All right, I'm gonna try to put you guys back up here. Maybe something with where I had you wasn't working. I'm not quite sure. Give me 1 second here. Let me put my phone back up. Okay. So, hopefully, fingers crossed, third time's the charm, right? Alright, sorry, I know I lost you guys a couple of times here. I'm not quite sure what's going on, if it's internet connection or because where I'm at in my house. The router's literally maybe like 10 feet away from me, so it shouldn't be losing connection. I'm going to hope that this one works. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of explain things. It looks like it's going okay this time. Alright, so I am making these just the glass candle holders now for the third time, sorry, but I want to make sure everybody knows if they come back and view this later what we're doing. So we're just making these kind of look more industrial looking. So the paint colors that I wanted to use for these, I am mixing my own. We are using the Waverly Celery. I'm not going to flip this camera. I don't want to touch it too much just because of the issues I had a couple minutes ago. So sorry, everything's kind of flip-flopped right now. Alright, and then we're using the Waverly Steel. And then we're using the Folk Art, and this is the Java, the one I've been using here. Alright, so I did mix here to get to the bottom color of this. And I did paint one here. So let me go ahead and start painting the rest of this one, okay? Now that my paint's probably already dry after screwing around with the camera and everything. So, that was drying time at least, right? Alright. Good. I'm keeping an eye on this camera. I don't trust it now, since it went out on me twice today. Alright, so I am just doing that first coat there on the bottom, and I am going to go around the edge too, just because that is such a big edge. And like I said, you don't want to go back and forth in this type of motion when you're painting glass, because you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to create more and more brush strokes. Okay, camera seems to be working good, so this is good so far, right? Now I'm paranoid. Now I'm looking, because I know before I kept talking and nobody was listening because my camera went out. So yeah, I'll probably be looking up here more often during this to make sure you guys are still with me. Okay. Alright, so that looks good. That's a pretty good coat on that. I'm going to set it here and let it dry. I am going to do my second coat, seeing how that's pretty dry and it's good. So even on glass, even if it seems dry, you still do not want to do the back and forth brush motions even after your first coat, because then you're just going to probably peel this paint that's already dry off. You're just going to real lightly do a second coat, not applying much pressure at all, okay? So So just how you were, real lightly, real light coat, okay? And these do take a couple coats. This is not a fast slap some paint on it project, honestly. These do take time just because it is on glass. If it would peel on you when you're putting one of your other coats on, that's okay. I'm not getting, let me see here. Okay, there we go. All right, that's okay. Don't panic. Just let it dry how it is. If you would peel a little bit off, you can always go back and kind of just touch up that little spot that you peeled. So that's okay if that would happen, which I'm sure I'll end up doing here because I'm trying to make sure my camera's working and doing this, so this isn't getting my full attention right now. All right. So that's about the second coat. It's going to need a third. You can kind of still see through it. And of course the lighting in here is not working in my favor because you can kind of see straight through glass. So this is going to take a couple coats of this. Okay, and I am just going to do the edge real quick. Not re-going over what I just painted because you'll just peel that off. So you just want to stay away from that. I'm just going to do this edge. About drop that. Okay. I just was thinking to myself, I have all my windows open here on the sun porch because it's warm in here, and we have newer neighbors on the side of us over here, and they probably hear me talking to myself, and they're probably like, what is she doing? This lady's crazy. Why is she talking to herself? So they don't know me. They don't know that I do this, so that'll make for a good conversation later. Alright, so those edges are painted pretty good there. Hi Christy, I saw your comment on the last video before it like shut off on me, so alright, this one's still wet. Alright, so I'm going to grab the hairdryer and dry those off real quick, okay? Those look pretty dry, but I'm still going to let them dry while I mix the next color, which is this part, okay? So what I mixed for these were the Waverly Celery Green, the Waverly Steel, and the Folk Art Java. So that's how I got that really pretty color, and it's hard to see, but it does have like a greenish tint to it. So that is what I used to do the bottom part of these. The top part, I am doing the Java Chip, Folk Art, and I'm also doing the Waverly Steel, just to tone down that brown, deep dark brown color. I wanted it more of like a foggy brown, if that makes sense. So those are the ones I'm doing. Let me see here. Hi, George. Don't worry, this ain't going anywhere. Maybe the paper will. All right, so I'm gonna mix that color. Don't mind my beautiful paper plate. I did like have a thought in my mind to keep it kind of like neat, but after the video shut off of me a couple of times, I was like kind of just messing around here. All right, so I am going to mix that brown color, which is a little bit of gray anyway, so I'm just going to join them here. And like I said, I mixed those colors earlier today, so this set might be a little bit different. It just depends on how close I mix them here. I'm trying my hardest to mix them pretty closely. If you're doing a big project, you should mix all of your paint at once if you're using like a mixture of two different colors, because you could run into like things not matching or paint color different on like one side and the other side's different color. So if you are doing a really big project, mix all of the paint that you'll need right away. That's like a kind of a good tip there. I have done it before where I haven't mixed it at the beginning and I kind of ran into problems, so save yourself from that. Things like this, it doesn't matter, they're just real little. So alright, so I am going to mix this here, hopefully get around that color that I need. This definitely will have more brown in it than gray because you still want to keep that brown, and it is becoming that color there a little bit. I think I put too much gray in it, so I'll go back and put some brown in it. I will use it all, I'm sure. So, and these colors really, they're not that different from each other. I'm putting more gray in there, jeez. Okay, they're really not that different from each other. They're just slightly different. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And as you guys can see there on the plate, they are two different colors. Okay, you got your browner and then you got your gray here. All right, let's see here. Hi, Jess. I am making the candle holders. These are the ones that we found at the church rummage sale yesterday, and I just had to bring them into the video today. I thought they were really, really cute. So we're kind of getting the industrial look on these. I looked on Pinterest and was like, what can I do? I'm not a colorful person. I don't want everybody getting sick of all my white and grays. So I decided to do like an industrial look, kind of make it look metal a little bit. But yeah, that's what they look like. And this is what they look like before. They were just all glass, and then I painted the bottom of these ones here. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this brown color now. I'm going to do the hard one first because I really don't like this one at all, just because it's a pain in the butt to paint. I wish I would have kept these two and did the harder ones earlier today, honestly. Okay, so I am going to actually paint up, I think I painted up to this here little section. That way this is still all glass sticking out, okay? So I am going to do that. And like I said, don't brush back and forth. You don't want to do that. That's just going to take the paint off that you put on. Okay, so you just want to layer it nicely, pick one way that you want to go, and just paint, okay? And it is going to take a couple of coats. Don't get discouraged. These are a little bit more time consuming in painting. Okay. So as you can see, this is why I don't like these ones. They're a little bit harder. There's more creases, more detail on these. But it is possible. It is. Hi, Aunt Kim. Alright. Just going to make sure I have all of that covered. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Actually, these match pretty well. I'm impressed with myself that I actually match them, mix the paint colors somewhat close. Alright, so I am just still doing my first coat here on these. There we go. Okay. A little spot that I missed. You want to make sure you get that ridge there too. It looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but it is the first coat, so that's all right. But the colors are starting to come out a little bit more. I noticed, and it's kind of like a true thing here, when you're painting, even if you're just painting a wall, your second coat always brings out that color. So when you take a sample home, don't just slap one little coat on the wall, like on a spot, and just say, oh, I don't like this color. You want to do a couple coats, because in all reality you're going to do at least probably 2 coats on your walls when you're repainting. So that is when the true color comes out. I know a friend of ours is actually painting her living room, and she was doing that, and there was this white, she's trying to pick a white color, and sorry, that's my husband calling. She did just do one quick coat, and it was actually bringing out more of the color that was underneath the color she was painting. So the second coat is always what is gonna, pretty much what your color is gonna look like. Unless you have a deep color underneath, then you might need to do a third. So it's same thing on these. These are actually really, really good sample to use for that, because it shows that, you know, after that second coat you are getting that full coverage. Alright. Okay, so I'm going to switch to this one now. This one here I stopped at here, okay? So I am going to paint from here down, just to keep that top clear, okay? Alright, let's start there. This is easier because I just go the whole way down with some brush strokes. There's not as many detailed parts on this, okay? And make sure you have pretty much on your paintbrush when you are doing this. Yes, I'm back on. My husband must have been watching me on the road and lost camera here for a little bit. So, yep, we're back on. All right. So that was a lot easier than doing one side of that one, let me tell you. And I know the dollar store used to have these. I think I started my video out with that. The dollar store used to have these glass ones. I don't know if they do anymore. I'm not quite sure. I did go there the other day and they did not have any. But they just might have been out of them. Okay. Alright, so those are going on a lot easier than the last one with all the angles and all the different stuff on there. So this is where you want to be careful, because I didn't mask or anything. I'm just kind of I'm just eyeballing it. Hi, Jan. And so I'm just going to meet up to that gray line there. Sorry, I know this isn't a good one for you guys to see, because I got to kind of see where I'm painting here. So just hang in there with me. All right. If you have a steady hand, this isn't hard to do. Just got to follow where you left off with the gray here. And it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. And I missed that one there, so I'm going to go do that one now. So this is the first coat. You're going to see through it a little bit there. Okay. Good. Alright, so I'm going to let that dry here. I missed this whole side actually. Alright. Okay. I've got everything covered on that one. Alright, so that one looks good. They are actually matching pretty well. So that's awesome. This is the one I did earlier today, and this is this one, so they are matching pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to use the hairdryer again real quick just to dry that coat that I just put on, and then we'll start again on the second on the brown. Okay? Oh, I think my hairdryer finally died on me, everybody. This is one to put on the calendar. Oh, it did. Darn. I knew it was going to happen some point in time. I've had this for like 10 years. Alright, so I think these are pretty dry. We could probably do the second coat. I'm gonna have like a little ceremony for that hair dryer because that thing was like with me forever. Alright. So yeah, Christy, and George is right. I did about blow my whole table away. I didn't really realize my paint plate is like going over here and everything. Okay. So I am gonna go ahead and do my second coat of the brown on here. Being very careful because I know that I couldn't fully dry that with that hair dryer. And I'm not going to make you guys sit here and watch paint dry, so it's going to be very careful. Okay, so very light coats again, okay, especially when you know, I shouldn't say light coats, light pressure, especially when you know that your paint, the first coat is not fully dry. I would not recommend doing this to your walls and everything. I'm just doing it quickly on here. So if you're doing a bigger project, please let it dry fully. Don't be me and not let it dry. All right. Don't do what I do, do what I say. I think my mom used to say that all the time. So that kind of, kind of helps you out here on this video. All right. Good. It's actually looking pretty good. It's not too bad. I'm just going back and I'm making sure it's covered. And if you get any on this glass part, you can kind of get your nail and just kind of scrape it off after it's dry there. These definitely are not, I'm not going to use anything to seal them, but they're not too, just because it is glass and paint, where paint can be scratched off of glass pretty easily. So if you are going to do these don't be surprised if you would scratch them, that the paint would come off a little bit. They're just a simple DIY decor, cheap decor, so they might not last you forever. Definitely just painted my finger there if you saw that. Alright, so I did kind of, if you look really closely, I did kind of miss that ring. That's what I hate about this one, is because of that tiny little detail here. I almost need a smaller brush. I should have grabbed one here before I sat down. I didn't use a smaller one on my last one, so somehow I did it. Maybe I went back over with the gray. I think I did that. Definitely getting some. How did I do that one? Oh, okay, yeah, I did that one the same way. Okay, so I did get the brown and I did take it down to that second little thing here, which I'm gonna have to go back and get the gray because I definitely screwed that up in a couple places. All right, here we go. Let's see. Yeah, Jan, I thought maybe it did. I did push the little button, but it didn't. And my phone and everything's plugged into the same bar and it's working. So I think it's my hair dryer. I wish it was just the fuse. That would be great. Okay. So that's pretty good. I'm going to go back and touch up where I kind of got that brown on the gray a little bit. Alright, and then the second coat on this one looks pretty dry too. My dog's just standing here looking at me like, what are we doing? This is not right, Mom. We are usually in the dining room. I usually have a bone. She's not too happy with me right now, I don't think. Okay. Just doing my second coat on here. And like I said, just still continuing those really light, no back and forth with your brush, just the simple, you can't see that, I had it like way over here. Just a real simple light coat, okay? Going one way with your brush. That's gonna eliminate all of your brush stroke. That's gonna eliminate peeling up the paint that you just put on. So that is like the #1 thing here, and very, very little pressure is what you're using. I'm barely touching. Okay, and you guys will see once you start painting, if you are going to do this later, and you don't have to do it with candlesticks, you can do anything glass here. If you do this later, sit down and just test it, and you'll understand what I'm saying about not pushing too hard and going one way with your brush. Okay, go one more side here. And almost done. Sorry, I'm trying to keep this closer to the camera here. My sun porch is a beautiful place to be today, but it's really hard for me to work out here with the camera. Okay, there we go. So there's the second coat there. I'm going to let that dry. And I am going to actually go back and I'm going to do a third coat on this one just because there is some spots that I do not like about it. You can kind of see through it a little bit. Okay. I'm just going to clean my brush because that dark brown, I don't want to mix that into the bottom. And make sure your brush is dry, like I said on the initial video when I started. Make sure that you are using a dry brush for this. You do not want your paint to be too watery or it'll just smear. It'll just smear all over the glass. So you want it pretty thick paint, no watery brush, so make sure your brush is really dry. Okay, pretty good. And of course this paint is drying again. Okay, let's see here. It's a little bit more of this. Actually, I could have probably just used my brush with the brown one since this needs a little bit more brown in. Anyway. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to go back where I got all that brown on there that I don't like, and I'm going to just touch it up. Yes, I'm in deep concentration with this part, if you can't tell. Let me see here. See, it's full. Yeah, Jen, I will. I definitely will. I'm going to try to work on it after I'm done with all this to hopefully maybe revive it. That would be great. It would save me buying a well, cheap hair dryer for what I do here. So I am going to take a look at it after this. Let's see here. That looks pretty good. Okay, so there we go. That looks better than what that did. Alright, and I'm going to just do that other coat on here real lightly. I don't need a lot of paint on this coat because it's not really, just more touching it up. And as you can see, that is looking better there. There we go. Look how pretty. I definitely just put my finger in the brown paint. Oh my, I'm a mess today. Okay, there we go. I'm definitely not the neatest person to be doing these videos, I'm sure. I'm kind of like all over the place. My paint's all over the place. You know, I work better like that though. My work looks better like that, I would think. If I was neat, I would be more concerned about everything on the table than my project, I guess. So, okay, there we go. Alright, so that looks pretty good. It's better with that third coat. I really like it. So that looks good. I'm going to let that dry. And I am just going to I did bump this paint on the top here, so I'm just going to, while it's still decent, add to that brown a little bit. Okay. And right here. Okay. All right. So I touched that up. That's good. And I'll show you guys here what I mean. If you get this above or wherever, somewhere you don't want it, you can kind of just get your fingernail and scratch it off. Okay, so it'll come off. That way you don't have to worry about masking. You can just kind of take your fingernail and scratch off whatever you don't want on there before it completely dries. You still want it a little bit tacky, just because when it does completely dry, it does adhere to that glass better than, you know, when of course it's not completely dry. So I'm just going to go and clean up my edges real quick. And of course, I just cut my nails the other day, so I feel like I'm using my skin to just rub it off instead of scratching. Okay, there we go. These make really cute little decoration pieces. Not too bad. All right, there's that one. Yeah. Okay, so this is an example of when it's dry, it's harder to scratch off. I got a little bit right in here. You guys can kind of see that, and you can hear it, like it's on there. Okay. All right, so that's pretty good, I think, for the coats. There might be a couple spots here I see. I'm just going to go back and touch up real quick on this one. I don't think this one needs a third coat. I think it looks pretty good. The other one kind of you could see through for some reason. And it might have just been the way the sun was hitting it too out here. That could have been a possibility. Okay, so that one looks good now. All right, so in order to, third step with these, in order to get those lines, okay, see how this one has the lines, the one that I finished earlier, and this one's just kind of plain. All right, so now I'm going to flip-flop the colors, all right? In order to get the lines of the gray on top, you're going to use the gray paint, as you can see. I'll move it over here, you can see a little bit better. The gray here, and then the brown down here. Looking at it, you don't really, that doesn't draw your attention right away. The bottom draws my attention more. So we are going to use the brown there to highlight. I just call it eyeliner, I don't know. Highlight those little pieces, okay? Give it some type of detail, okay? All right, so I am going to actually do trying to think which one I want to do first. I'm going to actually do the brown on the bottom of this one, since this one is pretty dry. So I'm just going to get my brush. Just going to wipe it off a little bit. I'm not going to dip it in the water. It's the same colors as what we're using. And I'm just going to the very tip of this, dip it in the brown, just a tiny bit, one edge of it. Okay, just like that, if you guys can see it. All right, and that's when I'm just going to lightly, hopefully you guys can see this here a little bit. I'm just going to highlight that little edge, okay? I think I got it, tiny bit. I'm trying to tilt this towards you guys so you can see. I'm going to rotate it, and I'm just going to highlight, and this can be used on anything, okay? That little edge there, sorry, I'm way off on this one. Oh, I'm really off on this one. You can always go back and touch up if you have to. I'm going to let that one go to dry, and then I'll probably touch it up. Let me see if I can bring my phone a little bit closer. I'm afraid to touch this phone now. All right. Now you're not going to be able to see my face really well, but at least you can see this. All right, so I'm going to go to this one and just real lightly bring that detail in, okay? And same here. Just going to keep turning. Okay. And that one's there a little bit there. You can see how it's this compared to that. You're actually bringing that out. So, and you can do this to anything. I do a lot, you know, when I'm redoing dressers and stuff, this is kind of how I highlight the detail in them if I'm painting it a single color. There you go. And sorry, these probably aren't perfect because it's facing away from me and I can barely see what I'm doing. So I'm just kind of going by where I think they are here. Not too bad, actually. All right, so those are the bottom there of this one. All right, so you can see, oops, just drug my arm through the stuff there. You can kind of see the detail now a little bit better. I will probably go back and touch up this one. That one's a little way out of whack there. Okay, actually I can do that right now because I think it's pretty dry. Just gonna go back and just add a little bit more gray to the sides of that one. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. All right, now that looks good. All right, so I'm gonna let that brown dry. Actually, I think it's okay. So now I'm gonna go back and do the gray on the brown. All right, just like this one had it highlighted a little bit. You can kind of see there. I'm having a really hard time seeing my own phone here. There we go. That's a good picture. You can see that gray coming out on the top of there. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm just going to kind of wipe off my brush here on the side of the plate and pick up some gray instead of the brown. Grayish green, I should say, really. All right, and I'm going to do the first one towards me just because these are a little bit longer here for me. And just really lightly brush that onto there. Barely touching it. All right, there's that one. And they don't have to be perfect. Don't sit here for hours and make it perfect. They don't have to be. If you look at stuff that the paint's worn off on and everything, stuff is not perfect. So, and same with this one. Hopefully you guys can kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm close enough to the camera. Like I said, this is not a quick slap some paint on it project. This one takes time. I like the quick projects, but these here are not one of them. Okay. I'm just going to keep working my way around here. Grab a little bit more paint. You do not need a lot for the highlighting the edges. You just need a tiny bit. If you get too much on your brush, then you're going to be overdoing it, kind of like I did on that last one that I had to touch up there on the bottom of this. Okay, so those are coming out really nicely. I have one more to do here. Alright, okay, so I kind of went overboard on that one, as you can kind of see there. I'll go back and touch up a little bit later. I might even be able to wipe it off. No, I don't want to try it. Okay, so it looks good. I'm just going to touch it up a little bit with that brown. I touch a lot of things up, so if you make mistakes, don't feel bad. I do a lot of it. Just because I am so quick with what I do, I don't like to take my time on things, so then I rush and then I end up touching up in the end. Okay, those are the ones that are done. So there's a pair there, the same kind. All right, they look pretty cute. And then this one here's the one I need to add. So I am going to do the brown here on the bottom of it and then the gray on the top to highlight just this round part. Get a little bit of brown on my brush. And this one's a little differently done here. I'm just gonna kind of, oops, way off the camera there. There we go. Just gonna kind of highlight these ones. Hopefully I'm good. Yeah, I'm kind of on it there. All right. And this one. Good. These are a little harder to see. In the video it looks like they're easier, but they're actually not, they're not raised as much as the other ones. So they are, I am doing those a little bit too bold, I think. Pushing too hard. Okay, that one's a little better. Alright, good. That one looks good. just got one more here. And you could probably use a littler brush for this. It might look a little bit better, but that's just the brush I picked up. So it looks good. It's bringing out a lot of details. And then I'm going to do the gray on the brown now. Okay. And do this here. Okay. So this here, I didn't go crazy with it. I'm trying to see how I did this here. So I did just the part coming down here, and then I did this. So I didn't go the whole way up to here. It was hard to get my brush in there, so I just did from here down and then from here down. And if you want to be particular about it and do like really crazy, get a tiny brush, that's fine. Have at it. Alright. They all don't have to be the same length. They can all be different if you want. Sun's like beaming right into my eyes, so forgive me if this doesn't look the best right now. I'm trying to turn it towards you guys, and the sun is getting me in the eye here. Okay, so there's a little bit of detail there, and then I'm just going to do these here. I have a little bit too much paint on my brush, I think, is what's happening. Okay, there we go. Alright, just gonna go back up here and get those little edges real tiny. This one's a little bit bolder than my other one. Not that it matters. Oops, don't like that one. Clean some of that off of there. Okay, it looks better. Okay. I'm gonna actually turn this towards me because I am kind of messing these up a little bit just because they're so tiny. Alright, so there's that one then, okay? So that is finished. And I am going to let them dry a good bit, but these are the ones that I just did now, and this is the one I did this morning. So they're looking pretty good. They match really well, actually better than what I thought. So that's what they look like. Okay, so if you like these colors, I'll move this back up so you can see my face. You're not just staring at the table. Alright, so I'll go over real quick just a couple of the helpful things that got me through this project. Just in case you are doing this at home, and just because my video was kind of like in and out earlier. I did use Waverly from Walmart. I used the celery and I used the steel. I mixed those two together along with a tiny bit of the Java for the bottom. Okay, so you have that grayish green, brown, I don't even know. It's a very different, almost like a dark taupe color maybe. But that's that one. And then for the brown part of these, I used the Java and I used the steel. Okay, so those two to make the top, and then all three to do the bottom with a tiny bit of this Java in. Okay, just enough to give it to that brownish tint, just to match the top a little bit better. So that is all that I did with those. I'm trying to think here if I'm missing anything. Most important things when painting any type of glass, not just the candle holders, but any type of glass, do not brush back and forth. Do one stroke one way, and do them in pretty heavy coats. Okay, that's how you're going to get a decent amount on there that actually sticks, and you're not doing 12 coats. Okay. Another thing is, totally don't have the right lids on the right paints here. Another thing is, do not, if you see your paint start to pick up and peel after the first coat's already on, don't just keep painting, let it dry. And you can sometimes, after it's almost dry, get your finger and kind of just dab it down, kind of like you would do if you paint your fingernails. Did you ever screw up your fingernail and you kind of just went back and kind of dabbed it and it looked okay? That's kind of what you're doing here. If that would happen, that the paint starts peeling up, and let it dry really well. Okay. Another one, use a really dry brush to do this also. You don't want a brush that's, has a lot of water in it. You want to make sure your brush is pretty dry. All right. I'm trying to think what else. That's about it. I'll probably have to go buy a new hairdryer now unless I can get it working again. So that is what I'm gonna do after I shut this camera off. I'm gonna see if I can save my Mr. Hairdryer. If not, I'll probably have like a little funeral for the poor thing because he's been with me for like 10 years. All right. So thank you guys so much for viewing. Again, I really, really appreciate it. Sorry about the video cutting in and out, but in the end we got it, thank goodness. So that's good. I will probably go back and delete my first video just so people aren't confused if they're just now watching it. So please join this one. This is the one that lasted the longest and will tell you everything that you need. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, if you're watching this later, when it's not live, if you have any questions, just post a comment and I will get back to you and answer them. I will be doing another project on Thursday. My husband is gone again, so I might actually just pop on and off of here just with little stupid things that I'm doing. So if you get a little alert on your phone that says Junk to Gems is live, it's not probably a tutorial, it's just me painting and bored. So just hop on and see what I'm up to. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you.